Hey, you crazy cats! 42's live streams and videos are simply not available on vinyl. You will have to go to the YouTubes for that. So if you want content about British traditions and culture, cutting edge social commentary from an unapologetically patriotic perspective, along with a side order of madness you simply will not find anywhere else, then this is the place for you. And to all those early adapters in the chat, don't forget to hit the notification bell. That's how you get the good stuff and make sure you never miss a tasty treat. So with that being said and done, squeeze yourself in. Let's get into it. You know you want to. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening. Please delete as applicable because the internet is worldwide and time zones are indeed a thing. Can I get a wee audio check in the chat, please? And yes, I fucking did it. I managed to get the intro off and me on without a hitch this week. We're getting better at this. Slowly, steadily, slight incremental improvements. I love it. Here we go. And with that, I'll do some hellos. Budgie Burger first in, with the best comments on the internet. Yeah, no, we're not reading them all, Budgie. Mr. Packer, what about you, chum? Welcome aboard. Anglo, evening, brother. Glad to have you here. Thank you very much. And yes, the audio is indeed working. We are all good. Now, what I have to tell you is before we start. Anything of interest? Yes, here we go. For those of you who, like me, have been following the natural year this year, how's it going for you? Is it working? We're approaching halfway point. We're approaching summer solstice, the longest day, 21st of June. We're into the month of it. You can see those lovely long summer days, and you're going to have that for a little while. You've plenty of time to get stuff done that you want to get done. And what I will say is that while this year has not been totally brilliant, to say the least, I think of following the natural year and getting ready for the different festivals and trying to plan ahead has helped me out immensely. And I'm looking forward to summer solstice and next year being even better because life's getting better. It's all good. And and there's Robin in from Down Under. Courage is a cure. If you want kept up to date with what's going on in the world of weird with all our politics and stuff from a Down Under perspective, Southern Hemisphere perspective, this go click on this link, subscribe to the channel. Robin Courage is a cure does a very good job of all that. There's Sheila's Dots in. Evening, Sheila. Welcome aboard. And the other show that I like to shout out who does similar stuff to that, but from an American perspective, is RPW Media. Rich, Jimmy from Philly's brother, he also has a whole media site in the background there, lots of information, all good stuff. And he is indeed going to be our guest on next month, June's end of the month stream. So you've got Rich looking forward to. Robin, I'm going to be sending you an email about July's. So there you go. Just I'll get that off coming up soon. So there's those two, and the other show that I'd like to give a shout out to is the Dave Waffle House. He may be lurking. We might be able to tease him out whenever we mention the show. Dave's Waffle House, the home of the Friday night duck race, the best duck race on the internet. There are lots of ways that you can get ducks. You can comment on any stream. You can interact during the stream, and win ducks. You can even buy ducks. And I do, by the way, I do not accept any donations or anything. But if you do buy me a duck, so I have a fleet of 42 ducks flying up and winning those races, I will accept that. That's a good go. And there he is, Mr. Dave Waffle. White. And oh, Chris gave you a really good shout out. He said he really likes the way you're hustling and making your channel work, and he wants to get you on. So you need to send them an email. And now that you're here, yes, I am the sort of lunatic that would send Chris an email and carbon copy you into it so that he gets your details. So maybe get on that before I do. Might be an idea, Mr. Waffle. Come on, chop chop. I want to see that stream. I think it'll be absolutely brilliant. A really good bit of content. While we're on the subject of content, yeah. Oh, there's Brad James is in. What about you, chum? And Mr. Packer and Mr. Bass, who's not here. Yes, while we're on the subject of content, I need to get in touch with the GG show. I would like to get Mr. GG show on and find out the story of how he got to be where he is, because he looks like a really interesting character. And with that all said and done, we're going to move on to tonight's content, which is going to be about D-Day. Obviously, it's on the 6th of June, so that's why we're covering it this week. We're on course for that. It's the right date. I'm going to begin with the BBC radio announcement and let us hear how the British people found out about this event at the time. I can just get this to work. StreamYard. Present share screen. They've put extra steps into bringing anything up here. I'm just going to leave it like that because that's all you need. And now we will let you hear the announcement. And this is how the British people found out. There's a bit of silence at the start of this, so bear with it.
This is London. London calling in the home, overseas, and European services of the BBC and through United Nations Radio Mediterranean. And this is John Snagg speaking. Supreme Headquarters, Allied Expeditionary Force, have just issued communique number 1, and in a few seconds I will read it to you. Under the command of General Eisenhower, Allied naval forces, supported by strong air forces, began landing Allied armies this morning on the northern coast of France. I'll repeat that communique. Communique number 1. Under the command of General Eisenhower, Allied naval forces, supported by strong air forces, began landing Allied armies this morning on the northern coast of France.
Now, a big chunk of why I wanted to play that to you says, come on, was making noise. Right. Okay. Got that. Stop. Yeah. Yeah. Whenever you think about how we get anything reported just in the news today, and the difference between now and then, it really is night and day. And whenever you heard a news announcement like that, it has a bit of authority to it. And how the BBC has got from what it was then to what it is now is, quite frankly, disgusting. I'm not saying that the BBC has always been perfect. Auntie has always had its problems, but At least then there was a bit of gravitas to it. And with that, I need to move you. Stop that screen. Right. And he was indeed. Eisenhower's speech whenever he left was quite the doozy about the military industrial complex and where everything seemed to be going. He was indeed. I'm not sure whether or not I would have liked him to stay as president for any longer, but there is that about him. He did have that down. And with that, I'm going to go to our first bit of content, and we're going to go to the Imperial War Museum and 10 things that you need to know about D-Day. And we'll get the basic facts, and then we'll go to Encyclopedia Britannica, and then we'll probably have a little bit of a musical interlude. That's sort of how we're feeling. Let's see if we can get this up. Get this shared, sorry. And we'll see what it looks like on the screen. Again, with the extra steps. I think I could take me out of that, and I think I could make this a little larger. Right, 10 things you need to know about D-Day from the Imperial War Museum. So this should be done entirely from our perspective. This is supposed to be a patriotic organization. I'm not quite sure they always get that, but there you go. So, D-Day, 6th of June 1944, was the largest amphibious invasion in the history of warfare. Still is. The statistics to D-Day, codenamed Operation Overlord, are staggering. The Allies used over 5,000 ships and landing craft to land more than 150,000 troops on 5 beaches in Normandy. The landings marked the start of the long and costly campaign in northwest Europe, which ultimately convinced the German High Command that defeat was inevitable. I think they got the gist of defeat being inevitable whenever they were in Berlin and totally surrounded and deciding to eat bullets. Yep, that's when they figured out that they were beat. I think it's where that happened. Oh yes, a nice picture of the troops wading ashore. My throat sounds a little bit croaky. Let me know if it's okay. I hope it is. So first thing, on D-Day, 6th of June 1944, Allied forces launched a combined naval, air and land assault in Nazi-occupied France. The D in D-Day stands simply for day, and the term was used to describe the first day of any large military operation. Early on 6th of June, Allied airborne forces parachuted into drop zones across northern France. Ground troops then landed across 5 assault beaches: Utah, Omaha, Juneau, and Sword. By the end of the day, the Allies had established a foothold along the coast and could begin their advance into France. Sorry, what tricked me was I normally recite those beaches in a different order. I always end with gold. And it sounded weird to me. Yeah, a picture of the liberation. 2. Overlord opened the long-awaited second front against Germany. I would debate whether this was the second front, the third front, or what the fuck it was, even a white front, but there you go. The defeat of Germany was acknowledged as Western Allies' principal war aim in the defeat of Germany was acknowledged as the Western Allies' principal war aim as early as December 1941. Would that not have been the fucking first thing? Like that, please. We're going to go to a war. What's our objective? We want to kill the fucking enemy. That's your only objective. That's it. Whenever they're all dead, you've won. Please. Please. Is it just me or is it the Imperial War Museum a little bit on the slow side. Opening the second front would relieve pressure on the Soviet Union in the east, and the liberation of France would weaken Germany's overall position in Western Europe. So what the fuck was going on in Italy then? Was that not a front? Because I'm pretty sure that we had a shitload of soldiers that were going up Italy into the mountains and fighting with Germans and Italians. I'm pretty sure that's quite the distance away from Europe, and I would call that a second front. And what the fuck do you call everything that's going on in the Middle East with, I don't know. Please, Imperial War Museum, it didn't open you up for an argument, but please, you're supposed to be the guardians of our history. The invasion, if successful, would drain German resources and block access to key military sites. Securing a bridgehead in Normandy would allow Allies to establish a viable presence in Northern Europe for the first time since the Allied evacuation of Dunkirk in 1940. And there is an episode of Dunkirk. I should actually list the link other ones in the description. I think I might start doing that. But for now, I'm going to go back to StreamYard and check the comments. Oh, the wonderful sexy G has arrived in. Hope you're all good and the shift wasn't too taxing. G was working this evening. This is true. G, that's only whenever I get all tongue-tied. And I will say that you're getting a little bit on the, you're trying to be a hoot. I know what that means. We'll see. I actually have that in my show notes. The one VC, there was only one Victoria Cross one on D-Day, and I've got the guy's story about that. So, yes. Oh, there's Freezy Peachin. Good evening and a very warm welcome. And we will go back to the article. The rot does run deep, boss. D-Day required detailed planning. No shit. Going to take 150,000 soldiers and dump them on the enemy when want to do a little bit of planning. Fuck. Shocked. Lieutenant General Frederick Morgan and his team of British, American, and Canadian officers submitted plans for the invasion in July 1943. Although limited plans for the invasion of Europe began soon after the evacuation of Dunkirk in 1940, detailed preparations for Operation Overlord did not begin until after the Tehran Conference in late 1943, because all our world leaders went to Tehran to have Tehran in Iran to have a conflab about how everything was going to be done. A command team led by American General Dwight D. Eisenhower was formed in December 1943 to plan the naval, air, and land operations. Deception campaigns were developed to draw German attention and strength away from Normandy. To build up the resources for the invasion, British factories increased production, and in the first half of 1944, approximately 9 million tons of supplies and equipment crossed the Atlantic from North America to Britain, which would not have been possible without the convoys and the naval war. A substantial Canadian force had been building up in Britain since December 1939, and over 1.4 million American servicemen arrived during 1943 and 1944 to take part in the landings. Interestingly, some of those Americans were stationed in a public park that sort of sits in the border between East Belfast and South Belfast. And there was a large part of that was taken over by the American troops during the war they were based there. And my father and his brothers and sisters, and obviously all the other kids from that area, they have stories about them being there in the tents and whatnot, and telling the Americans, "Why are you here? Have you here to fight a war? Why are you not somewhere else? My daddy's in the Navy. He's away fighting the war. Why are you here?" So, there you go. D-Day was an international effort. The D-Day required unprecedented cooperation between international armed forces. The Supreme Headquarters Allied Expeditionary Force was an international coalition, and although the Allies were united against Germany, the military leadership responsible for Overlord had to overcome political, cultural, and personal tensions. No shit. By 1944, over 2 million troops from over 12 countries were in Britain in preparation for the invasion. On D-Day, Allied forces consisted primarily of American, British, and Canadian troops, but also included Australian, Belgian, Czechoslovakian, Dutch, French, Greek, New Zealanders from down under, Norwegian, Rhodesian, and Polish naval or ground support. And what I want to make very clear is that while there were people from all of those places, if you had 5 people there, it's enough to get your whole country on the list. So while it is important to acknowledge that there was people from other places, it's also very important to realize how minimal their contribution was to this just simple day. And I'm not going to get into we did more than this and they did more than that and whatever, but I would rather that we were factual and reflected the reality of it. There wasn't too many Rhodesians there. 5. The largest naval, air, and land operation in history. The invasion was conducted in 2 main phases: an airborne assault and amphibious landings. Shortly after midnight on 6th of June, over 18,000 Allied paratroopers were dropped into the invasion area to provide tactical support for infantry divisions on the beaches, and also in gliders. Allied air forces flew over 14,000 sorties in support of the landings, and having secured air supremacy prior to the invasion, many of these flights were unchallenged by the Luftwaffe. Nearly 7,000 naval vessels, including battleships, destroyers, minesweepers, escorts, and assault craft, took part in Operation Neptune, the naval component of Overlord. Yeah, you got to have the boats to get them all there. That's kind of important. Naval forces were responsible for escorting and landing over 132,000 ground troops on the beaches. They also carried out bombardments on German coastal defences before and during the landings, and provided artillery support for the invasion troops. And I need to cough. Sorry about that, people. My throat is weirdly dry. Well, there normally is a secret who knocking about. With a 6, and I'm surprised the Gurkhas didn't get some form of a mention, to be brutally honest with you. Nepal or some shit like that. But there you go. It is what it is. Where was I? Nearly 7,000. Yep. Oh, the other thing I want to say about the gliders is the reason for the use of gliders wasn't because they didn't have enough men that could jump out of aircraft, or they didn't have enough parachutes. The gliders were used for very strategic attacks, most notably Pegasus Bridge, and the other bridge beside, because there was two bridges in that complex that were about 700 yards apart. But if the drop blows in parachutes, the Germans can see them coming. They can get set up and whatnot. Whereas the gliders that they used actually took out the German barbed wire around the bridge and took out the defenses. That's how pinpoint accurate they were with those gliders. So the gliders were more for getting people exactly where they needed to be, and then go and take that point. And if you watch the film, The Longest Day, the guy shouts, "Up the Oxen Box," because it was the Oxfordshire and Buckinghamshire light infantry that were the first ones to arrive at Pegasus Bridge. And also in gliders, there was the 1st Battalion of Royal Ulster Rifles. They had one battalion went in gliders, and they had another battalion went in on landing craft on the beach, and they're the only regiment to have a battalion in each element of it. Just a little bit of extra info. Oh yes, and there's the beach obstacles. Germany tried to defend the northern coast of France with a series of fortifications known as the Atlantic Wall. However, German defences were often incomplete and insufficiently manned. That's because they had far too much distance to try to cover properly with the amount of people and the amount of time. Members of the French Resistance and British Special Operations Executive, the SOE, the forerunner of the SAS, well, not really, more MI5, provided intelligence and helped weaken defences through sabotage. The Allied deception campaign succeeded in convincing the Germans as late as July 1944 that the main invasion force would still land elsewhere. Yeah, the Germans still thought that this was a decoy for a couple of weeks, apparently. I'm always a bit skeptical of that story. The threat of this larger second invasion kept German reinforcements tied down away from Normandy. Defence also suffered from the complex and often confused command structure of the German army, as well as the constant interference of Adolf Hitler in military matters. However, the Allies faced a number of setbacks both on 6th of June and in the months that followed. Yes, they did. Nothing was ever plain sailing. On D-Day, the Americans came close to defeat on Omaha Beach, partially because the preliminary air and naval bombardment failed to knock out strong defense points, but also because they faced highly effective German troops who had gained hard-earned experience on the Eastern Front. I'm not 100% sure. I think that most of the troops that they had were people who had been conscripted in the East, that they had a lot of people that weren't Germans, but they had German officers. I think that's maybe who was behind most of those machine guns and stuff. But there you go. Throughout the Battle of Normandy, the technical superiority of their tanks and anti-tank weapons, as well as the tactical skill of their commanders, gave German forces an advantage over the Allies. However, the Germans were never able to fully exploit the success or the weaknesses of the Allies in a decisive way. But there was also the sheer weight of numbers. The Germans were never going to have the ability to put the amount of troops and equipment into that small of an area with that amount of people, where the pressure would not uh, eventually tail. They might have had a very small chance on the 6th of June in the very early morning if they could have kept people, if they had kept them off all of the beaches, but they only needed to get landed on one beach before you divert all the numbers there and you get forward and you start going left and right. And it would be over anyway. But there you go. 7. D-Day was possible because of Allied efforts elsewhere. D-Day was made possible because of Allied efforts across all fronts. I thought there only was one front at the start of this. If this is the second front, there's only one front. So, would you make up your fucking mind? But before and after June 1944, in planning D-Day, Allied commanders drew important lessons from previous failures at Dieppe in France and also Anzio in Italy. Yeah, because they were both shit shows. The Allied strategic bombing campaign, which began in early 1942, weakened Germany's industry and forced Germany to commit manpower and resources away from Normandy and home defence. I would also say that the bombardment of the rail network meant that the Germans couldn't get the supplies to Normandy to make all the defensive stuff that they wanted to, so there's that as well. Securing air superiority allowed the Allies to carry out aerial reconnaissance, giving them vital intelligence on German coastal defences. D-Day also depended on Allies' control of the Atlantic, which was finally achieved in 1943 through victory in the Battle of the Atlantic. The campaign in Italy directed German troops away from western and eastern fronts. So you're now admitting there's 3 fronts. Interesting. The Soviet Belarusian offensive, Operation Bargaton, was launched just after Overlord and destroyed the entire German Army Group Centre. It also kept German forces tied down in the east. 10 weeks after D-Day, the Allies launched a second invasion on the southern coast of France and began to simultaneously advance towards Germany. So once they got a foothold in one place and lumbered them back a little bit, we're starting to land here, there, and everywhere, and you get swamped. Yes, once you get a few through, and then you let more come through and through and through, then eventually you get swamped. I'm not talking about D-Day. You need to protect your coastline. You need to stop people that are not your people coming on the land. It's a really good idea if you want your interior to be safe. That's a lesson the Germans learned on D-Day. Are we listening, people? Maybe just a little bit. There's more to Normandy than D-Day. The importance of D-Day often overshadowed by the overall significance of the entire Normandy campaign. Establishing a bridgehead was critical, but it was just the first step. In the 3 months after D-Day, the Allies launched a series of additional offensives to try to advance further inland. These operations were a success, and the Allies faced strong and determined German resistance. The Brockleg, a particularly of the Normandy landscape, characterized by sunken lanes bordered by high, thick hedgerows, was difficult to penetrate and placed the advantage on the German defenders. Yet the bloody and protracted Battle of Normandy was the decisive victory for the Allies and paved the way for the liberation of much of northeastern Europe. In Normandy, they have what they've done around the edges of the fields. They have had like an earthwork mound to go around it. I think it's probably the keep the wind off whatever they were growing inside the fields, and then the hedges grew on top of them. So not only did you have very old, very thick hedgerows, but it was on top of a anti-tank trap, which meant rolling from one field to the next was just not an option. We'll do 9 and 10, and then I'll check the comments. Northwest Europe was the most significant campaign fought by the Western Allies. Overlord did not bring an end to the war in Europe, but it did begin the process through which victory was eventually achieved. By the end of August 1944, the German army was in full retreat from France. But by September, Allied momentum had slowed. The Germans were able to regroup and launched a failed but determined counteroffensive in the Ardennes in December 1944. That's where you get the famous Battle of the Bulge and films with Germans running about trying to steal fuel and punch their way through. They got a bit of time where there was good cloud cover, so their absence of air superiority didn't matter, and they made quite the dent in the Allies' lines until they get stopped at Bastogne. This defeat sapped German manpower and resources and allowed the Allies to resume their advance towards Germany. Oh yes, and there's a picture of the British moving forward, Sicily, Sorrento, Anzio. 10. There were many D-days throughout the war, because let's not make this one fucking day important. You absolute wankers. In this cartoon, one man says to the other, when they call us D-Day Dodgers, which D-Day do they mean, old man? Ah, right. Yeah, so these are two soldiers that had fought in Sicily or Marna or wherever. Yeah, so the cartoon is, when they call us D-Day Dodgers, that's soldiers that were not their own DJ. Which D-Day do they mean? D-Day is a general term for the start date of any military operation. The D-Day stands for day. It's often used, the exact date is either secret or not yet known. Some people, those soldiers serving in Italy some people thought soldiers serving in Italy were avoiding real combat in France and called them D-Day Dodgers. But the troops in Italy had faced their own D-Day at Sicily, Sorrento, Anzio, and were engaged in dangerous and difficult advance up the Italian peninsula. Yes, and then they ran bang smack into German paratroopers who held them up quite considerably. The German paratroopers were quite pissed off at being told to retreat because they thought they could have stayed up there for quite a while longer. So there is that. There you go. And with that, I'm going to go and have a look at the comments. My throat seems to have improved. Yes, we can take this down. And where am I? StreamYards. So I'm just checking through the comments. Lofer Sheffield, what about you, Sean? I think I probably owe you an email. I will get a reply off to you. I did have some stuff come up during the week, which kept me a little bit occupied. Fuck. Ha. I thought I was doing all well, and then I forgot to put myself back on the screen. There you go. Did you hear any of the bit that Leah said? No? Yes, no. Yeah, I'm thinking so. Yeah, I've been arguing with civil servants about birth certificates this week. because I'm trying to help somebody out. But there you go. We will see how that goes. And we're 40 minutes in. All right, what about you, chum? And thank you very much. With that, I think we'll do a musical interlude. And I know it's not this, but we're going to do the acronym pals. I think. We're going to do the acronym pals. We're going to do the acronym pals. I just need to look it up. I thought I had the link, but I don't. So we're going to have a musical interlude. Here we go. Right. Yes, this is the acronym pals. I know it's the word previous, but we're going with it. Here we go. Our first musical interlude of the evening. Mike Harding's Accrington Pals.
Smoky town where they were born, down in the valley, smoky little streets. They were pals from childhood days, climbing trees and running through the fields. And they all played together through the turning of the years, sharing their laughter, sharing all their fears. The seasons saw them growing up, the seasons passing turned them round, through the turning years. The Accrington Pals. School days end, the lads all went to work, some spinning, some weaving in the sheds, on the land or down the pit, working hard to earn their daily bread. And they all went walking up old Pendle Hill. On Sundays the lark sang high above the dale. Little Willie Riley played his mandolin and sang. They were laughing, they were singing then. The Accrington Pals. "1916 came the call, we need more lads to battle with the Hun. Lads of Lancashire, heed the call, with God on our side, the battle will soon be won." So they all came marching to the beating of the drums. Down from the fields and factories they'd come, smiling at the girls who came to see them on their way. They were marching, marching, marching away. The Accrington Pals. Blue sky shining on that perfect day, a lark was singing high above the song. Brothers, pals, and fathers lay watching that sweet bird sing in the quiet of the dawn. And they all went walking out towards the howling guns, talking and laughing, calmly walking on, believing in the lies that left them dying in the mud. And they're lying, lying, lying still. The Accrington Pals. Smoky town that heard the news, down in the valley, smoky little streets, houses quiet and curtains pulled, all round the town a silent shroud of grief. And the larks were singing still above old Pendle Hill. The wind was in the bracken and the sun was shining still. The lark was singing sweetly as the evening fell upon the sun. And Edward Parkinson, Bobby Henderson, Billy Clegg, Johnny Malloy, Norman Jones, Albert Berry, Willie Riley. The Accrington Pals.
That's what it was. I was muted. I was muted. Right, that's what happened. Where there was no noise coming out. So there you go. That was Accrington Pals. And now we're going to talk a little bit about the only person who won a Victoria Cross on D-Day. And this is coming from the Green Howards Museum. I can get to this. It's not the autoplay, mate. It's the fucking advertisement at the end of it. Yeah, hopefully, yeah. I got that sorted. I caught it quickly this time. Fuck. Normally, Rags ends up following me after being gibbering on for about 10 minutes. So there's that. Now, share screen. I want the Green Howards Museum. Yep. So this chap is the only person to win a Victoria Cross on D-Day, and we're going to tell you his story, and we're going to see how it looks on the screen. Doesn't need, and I think that's getting enlarged. Zoom me in and zoom me in again, and we'll have a look at that. Yep, that's better. Right. Stanley Hollis was born in Middlesbrough on the 21st of September 1912. In 1926, his parents moved to Robins Hood Bay, where they ran a fish and chip shop. In 1929, Stan joined the Whitby Shipping Company and trained as a navigation officer sailing the routes to Africa. He contracted blackwater fever and had to return to Middlesbrough, working as a lorry driver and later marrying Alice, with whom he would go on to raise a son and a daughter. Okay, so Stan had already been in service with the Green Howards as a territorial soldier prior to the outbreak of war, and readily signed on for war service. So what had happened is this guy had been in the Merchant Navy type thing, came back, He got himself a job as a lorry driver, and to earn himself a couple of quid, he got himself in the Territorial Army in the Green Hordes. Oh, people, if you're considering joining the Territorial Army, join the Royal Logistics Corps, join artillery, join engineers, join one of the things that does not put you on the front line. Because the one thing that you're getting out of the being on the TA is whenever shit goes bad, you know what your job's going to be. And if you're in one of the jobs that happens 100 miles behind the front, that's probably a good idea. So, but straight Green Hordes, go in the infantry regiment. Great. Why not? So, he was in the Green Hordes as a territorial soldier prior to the outbreak of war and signed up for war service, joining the regiment's 6th Battalion. He went to France in April 1940, working as a dispatch rider, and was evacuated from Dunkirk. This guy's done it all. He was in Dunkirk getting turfed back, and then he was on D-Day. On his return to the UK, he was immediately promoted from private to sergeant, an indication of how senior officers viewed his leadership potential. He went on to see action in the Western Desert and in the invasion of Sicily. In November 1943, he returned to the UK to prepare for the invasion of France, training in Scotland and on the south coast. Yep, there we go. There's a picture of him and a couple of his buddies. And well, this is awkward. Ha. Stan Hollis and his comrades, after being wounded in Sicily. Stan Hollis is on the far left with a bandage around his head. Right, so it's this punter here with the bandage. So he's not averse to getting in the wars. On the 6th of June 1944, Stan, along with the men of his 6th Battalion, climbed into their landing craft and headed for Gold Beach. So he's on Gold Beach. On the way in, Stan saw what he thought was a German bunker. He fired at it with a machine gun, and having emptied a drum of ammunition, he grabbed the barrel of the gun in order to put it on the deck of the landing craft. The hot barrel burnt the skin off his hand. According to Stan, it was the worst wound he received during the war. Yeah, that's not the best way to start your D-Day off, with a hand that's pretty fucked up. Not good. The Green Hordes Association brought the tram stop and is now the centre of... All right. This is a tram stop. Picture. The objective of the 6th Battalion was a German artillery position called Flubury Battery, situated in the village of ther. The battery was protected by a series of pillboxes, one of which Stan went to investigate. As he approached, the German inside opened fire on him. He immediately charged the pillbox, firing his Sten gun from the hip as he ran. He managed to get on top of the pillbox, threw grenades in through the gun slits, and then kicked in the door, taking the surviving Germans prisoner. He then followed a communication trance that led to a second bunker and also attacked that bunker, alone with equal success. So he's on his own, going in, taking over German machine gun and concrete machine gun posts. That's quite the feat. That is, that's worthy of a Victoria Cross. You're on about doing that type of stuff. You're liable to get yourself killed. Later that day, in the village of Crepton, Stan was told to go and investigate reports of a German artillery gun firing from within the farmhouse. Seeing the gun, Stan, along with 2 men, approached and attacked the farmhouse with an anti-tank weapon called a projectile infantry anti-tank gun. That is a British version of a bazooka, although it has none of the real reliability or accuracy of a bazooka. It's a pull the trigger and hope weapon. The pot landed short, alerting the gun crew to the presence of Stan and his men, and they opened fire. Stan managed to get clear. On realizing that his comrades were trapped, he picked up a Bren machine gun and charged back into the fray, drawing the enemy fire upon himself, but allowing the trapped men to get clear. So he led men in, they were stuck, and he was like, I'm going to get them out. And he made a diversionary attack. The gun crew focuses on him, those men get clear, and then he gets his way back. At the end of 6th of June, Stan and the men of 6th Battalion were further inland than any Allied unit, so they pushed the furthest and the fastest on day 1. For this action and the earlier action at Fleury Battery, Stan was recommended for the award of the Victoria Cross. Oh, interesting side note about the Victoria Crosses. They are made from cannons captured from the Russians in the Crimea. You know, the Charge the Light Brigade and all that sort of stuff. Well, that's the metal that they make these Victoria Crosses from. I only found that out the other week, or the other last week, I think it was. So, nice little bit of trivia. On the 11th of June, in the advance in the village of Charlotte, Stan heard a dog barking. Asking himself why the dog might be barking, he followed the noise and saw that the dog was barking at the men in a German machine gun position. The French dogs are fucking squealing at the Germans. I love it. Hidden in a sunken lane, without thinking of his personal safety, Stan charged to precision, and as he charged, he threw a grenade. Having first removed his spare socks from his ammunition pouch, alright, so he's got spare socks in the ammunition pouch to stop the grenades, and the first thing he put it out was socks and not a grenade. However, in his excitement, he had forgotten to remove the pin. Although no detonation occurred, it was sufficient to scare the gun crew into panic, which allowed Stan to close and take the position. And then he could also keep that, get that grenade back and use it again. Not only is he fucking winning the war, he's doing it economically. Stan's VC citation reads, in Normandy on the 6th of June 1944, Company Sergeant Major Hollis went with his company commander to investigate 2 German pillboxes which had been bypassed as the company moved inland from the beaches. Hollis instantly rushed straight at the pillboxes, firing his Sten gun into the first pillbox. He jumped on top of the pillbox, recharged his magazine, threw a grenade in through the door, fired his Sten gun into it, killing 2 Germans and taking the remainder prisoners. Later that same day, CMS Hollis, and these dots means that there's something being left out here. So there's more in this than what they're actually giving you. CMS Hollis pushed right forward to engage a German field gun with a PAT anti-tank weapon from a house at 50 yard range. These dots again means that there's bits being taken out of this. He later found that 2 of his men had stayed behind in the house. In full view of the enemy who were continually firing at him, he went forward alone, distract their attention from the other men. Under cover of his diversion, the 2 men were able to get back. Wherever the fighting was heaviest, he appeared, displaying the utmost gallantry. It was largely through his heroism and resource that the company's objectives were gained, and casualties were not heavier. He saved the lives of many of his men, and that, my friends, is the role of the Victoria Cross. Stan was decorated with the Victoria Cross by His Majesty the King at Buckingham Palace on the 10th of October 1944, and there's all of his medals. When asked why he did what he did, Stan always said, "Because I was a Green Howard." And when asked about his proudest moment, he replied, "When I was promoted to warrant officer, as I was then a man to be reckoned with in Middlesbrough." Also very humble. I like this dude. Both shows his feelings for the hometown and his regiment. You can find out more about what the Green Hordes use. Blah, blah. Right, post-war. Wounded a number of times and suffering from both the after effects of malaria contracted on active service and the Blackwater fever he contracted when in the Merchant Navy, Stan left the army and became, among other things, a publican running the Albion pub in North Onsby, later renamed the Green Howard. Fuck, I bet that was a good place for a pint. I bet that was just a really nice pub to sit and have a pint in. Without doubt, Stan had a natural aptitude for battle, but never in a foolhardy way. He was a natural leader who felt great responsibility toward his men. The action at Crepton illustrates this. In Stan's own words, he took men in, he would get them out. Stanley Hollis died on the 8th of February 1972 and is buried in Acklam Cemetery in Middlesbrough. So there you go. That is the story of Stan Hollis, and I think we'll get a picture of a statue here. Yeah, it's the Imperial War Museum. For fuck's sake. What's wrong with your funding? You can't get your posters the right way up. That is fucking ridiculous. That has pissed me right off. Oh, on the plus side, it didn't come up on the screen, or did it? Right, so we'll take that out. What are we on? We're on 1 hour 2 minutes. We'll take that out. Yeah, Mad Jack Churchill stormed D-Day beaches, piped the shore by his own personal paper. Only confirmed kill D-Day by last confirmed kill by an English longbow. Yep. Oh yes, and his claymore sword, because an officer's incorrectly dressed if he doesn't have a sword. The guy was good. Right, I think we're going to have another musical interlude, and then we're going to talk a little bit about the animals on D-Day. That's where we're going. And what will we have for a musical interlude? I think we're going to have harmony, melody, and rhyme. Because why the hell not? We'll stop that screen. Yeah, Scotty Sword. Yep. One of those. That's what he took with him on D-Day. A longbow and a claymore. The man was a little bit mad. But anyway, here we go. Oh, you're welcome. And I had him on the list because there only was one VC in that day, and you're thinking with the amount of men that was involved, the actions, all of that, everything going on, that there's only one got marked out for only one got marked out for VC, and I definitely wanted to tell that story. And the other thing that I want to do with these is to try to bring forward stories that aren't overly talked about. So here we go. Bit of harmony, melody, and rhyme.
42 speaking. Welcome to the Resistance. You are not alone, and we shall walk this journey together. What about you, chum? If one brings a guitar and one brings a voice, then they stand together and make their own choice. Let us gather together those that can perform, and from the scarred timbers build our own platform. We're from that grand house they tried to burn down. There's gold in the ashes if you look around. Let us gather together those that can perform, then from those scarred timbers build our own platform. Build our own platform. We will sing words of wisdom. We will sing for all time. Harmony, melody, and rhyme. We descended from minstrels in old days of yore. We will create a culture as we did once before. Forced to stand by as our country was sold. Did you really think we'd leave that story untold? So one brings a guitar and one brings a voice. Then they stand together and make their own choice. They have seen the future, the way forward is clear. Among us still stands a modern day Shakespeare. They have seen the future, the way forward is clear. Among us still stands a modern day Shakespeare. Stand by as our country was sold. Did you really think we'd leave that story untold? We will sing words of wisdom. We will sing we will sing harmony, melody, rhyme. Harmony, melody, and rhyme. So one brings a guitar and one brings a voice. Then they stand together and make their own choice. I have seen the future, the way forward is clear. Among us still stands a modern day Shakespeare. Never realized you could not kill a dream. So we will gather together those that can perform, and from the scarred timbers build our own platform. You're talking to 42. What about you, chum? If one brings a guitar and one brings a voice, then they stand together and make their own choice. Sing words of wisdom, we will sing for all time. We will sing for our people, harmony, melody, and rhyme. We will sing words of wisdom, we will sing for all time. We will sing for our people with the ancient trilogy of harmony, melody, never realized you could not kill a dream. You cannot kill a dream. And we shall walk this journey together.
Even remember to put myself back on that time. There we go. Might actually do Salisbury Hill later on, Bass. That's a very good call. We'll do that later on. For now, we are going to look at the animals on D-Day. Yes, there was animals. I think. Yep, here we go. The pigeons of D-Day is what's coming up next. I don't even know how you would attempt to pronounce the name of this blog, so I'm not even going to try. But I am going to go to StreamYards and oh fuck yeah, helps to actually put it on. Right. That's not the one I wanted. Yeah, the pigeons of D-Day. This is obviously a few years old, but we're just going to roll with that. This week we reflect upon the marvel at the heroic invasion of France 75 years ago, 81 years ago, because time has moved on, and the sacrifice, although I do not think the actions of any of these pigeons will have changed in the intervening period, so we're pretty good with these with this information. And the sacrifice of so many had resulted in the defeat of tyranny. Much has been written about the campaign. I have just read Double Cross, the Story of D-Day Spies by Ben McIntyre, who describes the incredible web of Allied secret agents, double, triple, even quadruple in intelligence that created a cloud of deception regarding the time and place of the D-Day invasion. Surprisingly, this ruse even extended to the use of carrier pigeons. So, I think there's more to the carrier pigeons than I thought previously, because I thought the paratroopers brought some in, and the idea was that they would go back with messages, and a number of them did indeed get eaten because, well, paratroopers get hungry. But there's more to it than that. So, English Flight Lieutenant Richard Walker was obsessed with pigeons and headed MI5's Pigeon Special Service Section B3C. This is true. They're not making this shit up. MI5 did have a Pigeon Special Service Section. He loved his birds and extolled their magical ability to find their way home from as far away as 700 miles. But all birds are not created equal, he said, with only 1 in 100 showing the industry, courage, and intelligence and resourcefulness to fulfill its wartime mission. It's a bit like that cartoon that we used to have whenever we were kids, Stop the Pigeon, Stop the Pigeon. Anyway, I've always considered pigeons and doves to be on the lowest rungs of avian intelligence. Their heads seem too small for their bodies, and their eyes all show that fake and bewildered stare. But they do possess the amazing homing urge that both we and our enemy were able to appropriate during both world wars. I need to consider my assessment of the species. Even the Germans used carrier pigeons, and Walker sensed that Britain was falling behind in the pigeon race. It's a fucking race now, is it? Forget the nuclear race. Who's winning the pigeon race? The German Pigeon Federation was run by the Gestapo, and Himmler himself was a pigeon fancier. So that That's who it was trying to take over the world. It was the fucking pigeon fanciers. You heard it here first. In 1937, before the war, the Germans brought 1,400 pigeons to England to stage a great pigeon race back to Germany. Well, seems to me if you want to have a race with racing pigeons, you have to take them far away first. I don't think it's much use racing them from the end, and you definitely can't race them from your place over to England. You're going to have to take them there and bring them back. It could be that they just wanted a fucking pigeon race. There's people go from Ireland to France every year for a thing called the Tulbani Cup. Maybe it was that. Walker suspected this race was actually a cover to train birds to cross the English Channel successfully and return to the homeland, as they may be needed to do exactly that in the impending war. So they're thinking, yeah, we'll get 1,400 birds and we'll try them out. Why not? It's not as bad as the birds that the Americans were dropping out of aircraft with. No, it was bats they had. They had the Americans had bats with incendiary devices flying over Japan and throwing them out of the airplanes, hoping that they would set fire to wherever they roosted. But there you go. Walker and MI5 were convinced that German spies would infiltrate the English countryside, arriving with sacks of trained homing pigeons. These birds could take vital information back to Germany more discreetly than even the wireless radios. Walker felt that he may be able to detect these spy birds among the ubiquitous native pigeons by their purposeful straight line flight to the east, or perhaps their cooing with a German accent. Now, I do remember there was a study about dogs barking in regional accents across England. So that may be a thing. One never knows. Secret messages were tagged to the birds by various means. A tiny hole could be burned into the quill of a flight feather and tiny rolled rice paper inserted, or a Morse code message itself could be written on the quill with indelible ink. Or you could just use that fucking little thing on their leg that has always been used. No? Maybe just do that. Captured enemy pigeons were treated as prisoners of war. In 1942, a falconry unit was established in the Isle of Sicily to intercept the German birds crossing the channel. Unfortunately, the falcons could not tell friend from foe, and as a result, many British pigeons perished. Oh, fuck off! Fuck right off! Falcon, go take out that pigeon. Which one? Well, not our one. Sorry, I'm just checking this, checking the comments. Yeah, because the Falcon would know exactly which one to fucking take out right enough. The Allied success in D-Day depended in large part upon Germans believing that Normandy exercise was merely a feint, and that the real invasion, I need to cough. Oh, please, God, no, not the Dolphins. Don't be getting the Dolphins involved in it. I think I may need to swap the water from coffee because my throat is a little bit dry. But there we go. Sorry, where was I? Oh, yes, the pigeons. The Allied success. I better fucking unmute myself. I have. Good. The Allied success in D-Day depended in large part upon the Germans believing that the Normandy exercise was merely a feint, and that the real invasion was yet to come in Pas de Calais, southern France, or even Norway. Yeah, because that was one of the places we were trying to make them think that we were going to. I think that did partially work. An elaborate deception scheme in the spring of 1944 called Operation Fortitude involved fake tanks and airplanes throughout England, fictitious units trading misleading messages, and double agents sending inaccurate reports back to Germany. Yes, that did all happen. Patton was highly involved in that. It's almost like they gave Patton this fake army to run to make sure he didn't fuck up the landings. Which might tell you something about my opinions of Patton. As a bizarre part of the operation, pigeons were dropped by parachute in corn containing cardboard boxes throughout France, hoping the Germans would capture the birds and read the fake messages heralding an invasion in Pas de Calais. So, what they're doing is they put it on a parachute drops down, and the bird's there, it's got the corn, it's got a bit of padding, it'll land okay, and it'll break its way out of the box, and then it'll fly about and be picked up somewhere, and some German will read the message because they're looking for fucking carrier pigeons right enough. There's more chance of some of the resistance trying to have the bird for their tea and fucking thinking that the faking information's real. But anyway, I digress. During the D-Day landing itself, a Royal Air Force pigeon by the unlikely name of Gustav brought back news of the early hours of the invasion. How detailed was that news, my friend? Did it give any accurate information? Or was it one of like 2 or 3 pre-decided messages that bore no relationship to what was actually happening in the clusterfuck that was the largest amphibious landing ever known to man? Released at Normandy, Gossip battled strong headwinds and enemy fire to come home to roost in its loft at Portsmouth. It made the journey in a record 5 hours and 16 minutes, bringing back the message of initial success of the invasion. Because holy fuck, the people on the boats off the coast couldn't see that. And then relay it back on their radio. No. You had to wait 5 hours and 16 minutes for a bird. Really. It is some feat, and I'm not taking anything away from the bird and its efforts. I mean, it's not the bird's fault that the person that came up with the idea was a little bit on the crazy side, but it did a good job. I'm just not quite sure that it contributed anything, and that bird could have lived its whole life without ever being in battle and been a lot happier, and it wouldn't have affected anything. But there we go. Gustav was rewarded the Dickin Medal for his performance, but later died when his handler stepped on him while cleaning the roost. Oh, fuck. That is one unlucky bird. That is one unlucky bird. Now, oh yeah, and here is a monument in Omaha Beach of a soldier pulling his comrade out of the surf. We sometimes forget that the Allied victory in D-Day was not assured, Eisenhower prayed that Rommel and Hitler would be duped by Operation Fortitude and keep their powerful army dispersed in France. As Ike told his departing troops, the eyes of the world are upon you. The hopes and prayers of liberty-loving people everywhere march with you. Both sides realised the final victory or defeat for the entire war could be determined in the initial hours of those beaches. I think that's being a little bit overstated, but the only chance the Germans did have of throwing them back into the sea was on that first morning. And to be totally honest with you, whenever you look at this, the size of the force arriving and the size of the force defending, that was never even really a chance. To give you some idea about this, the Germans' odds were, whenever you count it in X amount to one, like in Zulu, the British were faced with something like 30 to 1. In a fortified position with 20,000 rounds of ammunition. And whenever the whole shindig was over, they had 660 odd rounds of ammunition. So they burned through 19,000 rounds at Rorke's Drift. I don't know how many rounds they had at the start. I don't know how many rounds they had at the start of that shindig on Omaha Beach, but they didn't have any at the end of it, and that's where it was always going to fall down. One moment, I just want to check that. Right. Thank God the deception worked and the Allies were successful, but only with great loss of life and the countless acts of heroism. I'll never forget our visit to this hollow battlefield several years ago and strolled among the endless rows of white crosses. It is very poignant. I've only ever seen photographs and come to the conclusion that at some stage in my future, I do want to go to France. To be totally honest with you, I would be much more interested in going to FIFA Woods and seeing the trenches there that the 36 Ulster fought at Normandy. But it could be possible to do the two of them at the one time. I honestly don't know how far apart they are or whatnot, but that is something that I am becoming much more interested in doing. It's also partially with me becoming much more organized in my personal life, and I'm starting to get time and think about what I actually enjoy. Apart from MG, I always enjoy my MG. Everything that Emma and I do together is fucking lovely. But I am thinking that going and seeing those places is something that I would like to do. And with that, I think we're going to have a bit of Salisbury Hill. And there's a poem of mine I would like to read. If I can find it. But in the meantime, while I'm figuring that out, we're going to have a bit of Peter Gabriel and the Salisbury Hill. If we can get past the advertisement. The advertisements are getting longer. Fucking pain in the... Right, here we go. Salisbury Hill coming right up.
on Salisbury Hill, I could see the city light. Wind was blowing, time stood still. Eagle flew out of the night. There was something to observe. Came in close, I heard a voice, standing, stretching every nerve. I had to listen, had no choice. I did not believe the information. Just had to trust imagination. My heart going boom, boom, boom. Son, he said, grab your things, I'm gonna take you home. Yeah, to keep in silence, I resigned. My friends would think I was a nut, turning water into wine. Open doors would soon be shut. So I went from day to day. For my life was in a rut, till I thought of what I'd say, which connection I should cut. I was feeling part of the scenery. I walked right out of the machinery. My heart going boom, boom, boom. Hey, he said, grab your things, I'm gonna take you home. Hey, back home. When illusions in a net, I'm never where I wanna be. And liberty she pirouette. When I think that I am free, watch my empty silhouette, who close their eyes but still can see. No one taught them any can. I will show another me. The day I don't need a replacement, I tell them what the smile on my face meant. My heart going boom, boom, boom. Hey, I said, you can keep my things, they come to take me home.
There you go. That was a wee bit of Salisbury Hill. That was a little bit of that. And now we're going to hear a little bit about the D-Day dogs. Yes, there was dogs there on D-Day. And we're going to find out all about that. It was a bit of a surprise to me too. We'll zoom that in, and we'll zoom that in a little bit more. We'll get back to StreamYard, and we will share this. Stop that screen, present, share screen, share screen. The D-Day dogs. Here we go. Yep. Oh, it would help we actually put it on the see. Yeah, it is. It's Yeah, dogs. We had dogs on D-Day. Here we go. I would actually like that to be a little bit more larger. We will zoom this in. There's not a lot in this, by the way. Yes, we're all good. Here we go. The D-Day dogs. Mention D-Day landings in World War II, and most people will have an image of brave soldiers battling across Normandy beaches under heavy fire from the Germans. Saving Private Ryan did a lot to fucking change everybody's perception about that whole fucking day. And Hollywood is not accurate. Never is. Actually, I think that film, The Longest Day, was actually more accurate than fucking Saving Private Ryan, but let's not get on that. However, did you know that there were also some four-legged soldiers who played important roles in D-Day? I just got there before the cough. Sorry. There were some four-legged soldiers who played important roles in D-Day and the ensuing Battle of Normandy. Dogs were trained to sniff out explosives and mines and to keep watch in order to warn of the approach of enemy soldiers. To get dogs into Normandy as soon as possible, some were parachuted in, the so-called paradogs. Yep, there we go. Here's one of these parachuting dogs here. I'm going to fix this little thing. He's saying apologies for the non-play. Yeah, fuck that. The dog in this photo is called Nigger from number 1 Dog Platoon, 277th Field Park Company, Royal Engineers, and was taken in Normandy a month after D-Day. I cannot find anything more about this dog, whereas the picture below shows Binge, a German Shepherd, parachuted into Normandy with the Allies on the 6th of June 1944 on D-Day. Being originally called Brian, went on to sniff out many landmines. So Whiskey Boy, he's out there finding the mines so as our soldiers aren't getting blew up. He later parachuted into Western Germany, and after the war was awarded the Dickin Medal, UK's highest honour for animals in war. Other recipients of the Dickin Medal include pigeons, horses, and a cat, which helped keep rats at bay on a Navy ship, thus ensuring food supplies were not lost. There's more to that. That ship was part of a siege, and there was all sorts of stuff going on. The cat was fucking very heroic. Oh yes, there's the dog there, the German Shepherd, and there's a young lady with her as well. Finally found this image of Jasper showing him being bandaged up after an injury, proving dogs as well as soldiers were wounded in Normandy. Yes. And there are more details on the D-Day dog webpage. I don't think there actually is. We often think that soldiers in wars, but it would be nice not to forget that there were also animals that played vital roles too. I didn't realize that there was dogs sent in and they were doing finding mines and stuff. That is quite, that's cool. I'm quite impressed with that. So there you go. There's a little bit about the doggies, because we like the doggies and we like to see animals. And oh, that was the intro. That can get removed from the studio, and you can go. Yep, the little warrior dog. Fuck. dogs are used quite a lot here. And what am I going to do next? I'm going to play one of my poems because it is fitting for this stream. So we're going to have we're going to have one of my poems. It's actually more fitting for November, but we'll do this anyway. This is called 11th hour, 11th day, 11th month, 11th day. So here we go. We'll get this up. May as well just plug all of my own stuff. When the old man asks, Geordie, where have you been? Have you seen the sights that I have seen? Will you simply say nothing? Will your face look blank? Being told these eyes witnessed flames dance on a tank. At Rorke's Drift I was engulfed by Sulu hail, and on the Somme where thousands fell, on beaches Juno, Omaha, sword and gold, I watched inhuman carnage unfold. I was the 50 at the Alamo, who stayed at their posts and would not go. I held centre ground at Waterloo, and in the air I was the few. I was stretchered off the battlefield. I made it home but never healed. I was both sides at Stalingrad. The barbarity there, it drove some mad. I care not how you came to my trench, only will you share that food upon that bench, and risk your life for the man on the right, in the madness of a fair fight. You see, Geordie, I am the army. I go where I'm sent by a government most probably bent to earn their gold. I was promised glory. Repatriation brings a different story. A accent of birth my side will choose. That's why khaki comes in many hues, and that decides which mother cries each time a war-torn soldier dies. So forget the colour, class and creed. Today just let some empathy breed. Let there be hush for a moment or two. That's the least all these heroes are due. Respect them truly, one and all, the ones that heard the trumpet call. And one last thing you ought to do. That's thank your God I did not call you. There you go. That is... You nearly got lost something as well. Anglo, thank you very much. I'll tell you something I will say, which will give you an idea about progress. Whenever I did that all those years ago, I was really impressed that I was able to get all those pictures into the right place and everything. I was well chuffed with that. Now we got to go, yeah, I think there'll be a new video being made for that at some stage soon to update that, because as much as it was good for my abilities at the time, my abilities have increased and I can put better images to that. And with that, fuckily, I'm going to do lost something as well, because this is just type of how we're rolling now. I'm going to do lost something, and you will get all of my poetry, all of the poems. Yep. Not even sure if I've played this on this channel. If I have, it's been quite a while ago. Here we go. This is Lost Something. This is the one that I would have used in poetry slams. For those of you that don't know what a poetry slam is, you've probably seen slam poetry. Slam poetry is not a type of poetry. A slam is a type of poetry event, and you go and everybody gets to recite one poem. They've got a set amount of minutes you're allowed to do it in. Could be 3, could be 5, whatever. And then the judge that, and then X amount of people can go in, or a certain amount of people go into the next round, but you're not allowed to do the same poem. Yeah. Well, Brad, that's because, see, whenever you go to any of the poetry places, there's fuck all only left wing wankers. Well, unless I was there, in which case there was normally about 48 left wing wankers and me. And this is the one of the poems I would have used for my first poem. Never did get into the second round. But I think it's more to do with my opinions than it was with my ability. But anyway, here we go. This is Lost Something. I am the thoughts inside your head, the consciousness they thought was dead, the words they are afraid to voice in this illusion we call choice. I tell you, you will not find me inside polite society where with raised fingers they sip tea, dreaming dreams of mediocrity, where every person they protect by being politically correct, sleepwalking into censorship, which in truth is dictatorship sent from that liberal mothership, where politicians practice platitude, pretending to be great and good, and inside the church beneath the steeple the pews get filled by brain dead sheeple who from the moment they were born were only taught they must conform, swallowed it all, hook, line, and sinker. You must not become a thinker. For I am not wanted here, do you not know they rule by fear, so I am kept out in the gutter where with misfits I madly mutter, kept in a straitjacket so willing that corporations can make a killing. And even as you watch the news, you miss the tricks the media use, distract, distort, reality rarely report, ideology import, manipulate, misinform, truthless tales try to transform. And through all this, you must confess, you've lost something with your progress. Your mobile phone, your hybrid car, ask, have they really brought you far? When I administer this bitter pill, you have lost me, your own free will. There you go. Lost something by 42. There you go. And with that, I'm going to wrap this up. Well, thank you, Mr. Boss. Yep. Surprisingly, none of the left wingers decided that my poem should go forward I should be allowed into the next level. I think they were afraid about what I might say. I had a tendency to piss them all off with me having those opinion things and whatnot. But anyway, that's been all about D-Day. We've did about the VC, we've did about the animals, we've did the overview, we've had a bit of poetry, we've had a bit of music. It's been all very good. And with that, I'm going to play us out with the Anglo-Saxon, and I'll put your comments up on the screen. And we'll see you all again next week. What have we got coming up? End of the month show is going to be Rich from RPW Media at the end of the month. If I can, I will get out and do a live broadcast from an event that's coming up. We will have to see whether or not that comes off. But other than that, that's about the head of it. And this is the Anglo-Saxon. And here we go. Hello, you're listening to 42's letter to the Anglo-Saxons. When you spread this message, you are the resistance. The Anglo-Saxon. The Anglo-Saxon shook his head sharply, his hair dislodging droplets of sweat from the back of his neck, the produce of moving a carcass to the workbench. The sharpened blades and cleavers felt natural in his hand. The carcass divided to his will. The Anglo-Saxon's muscle memory was that of a warrior. His body was lost to the toil, but his mind wandered to memories that were not his own. An intruder startled the Anglo-Saxon. However, before him was not the meadows and glades of his ancestors, but a butcher's shop window. While politely serving the customer, the Anglo-Saxon mourned the loss of a kingdom he had never known, of the rituals and customs that were lost long before his grandparents were even born. Outside, the street was a bustle. He knew there were others like him, ones who carried the warrior's pride. Amongst them he would find the rightful place of an Anglo-Saxon. The Anglo-Saxon.
It was not preached to the crowd, it was not taught by the state. No man spoke it aloud when the Anglo-Saxons began to hate. It was not suddenly bred, it will not swiftly abate. Through the chill years ahead, when the time shall count from the date that the Anglo-Saxons began to hate. When time shall count from the date the Anglo-Saxons began to hate.
Game over.
Okay, everybody, thank you very much. I've been 42, and you lot in the chat have, as always, been fucking amazing. Thank you, good night, God bless. I'm out of here, goodbye.